So here's how I made my oversized brim cowboy hat. Now, I use EVA foam, and cosplayers know how great EVA foam is. It's really inexpensive. I think this roll cost me $30, and it's a huge roll, so I can make several hats. It's a 5mm EVA foam, so it's not too thick to shape. You're gonna need a heat gun to shape it. Now, I printed out a cowboy hat pattern from off Etsy, and then I just doubled the size. So that's how I got the really big brim. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to trace this out. You're going to use an Exacto razor, trace it out with something like this, and then you're just going to trace out the brim. Do not trace out the middle yet because you want to measure your head in order to get a good middle. So I'm just going to trace out the outer part just to get the brim done, and then I'll show you what else you need. You're going to need a few products for this project. You're going to need Plasti dip in black. If you want leather, you're going to need a leather texture. You're going to need aluminum foil. If you want a patent leather texture, you're going to need automobile black gloss spray paint. But I'll show you all of the steps that I took so that you can get it all done. So let me get this cut out, and then I'll come back and show you the next step. So just a few notes when you're tracing out your brim pattern. Tape it down so it doesn't move around. And I use a white, I think it's called a fabric pencil. It's just one of these. This is by the Fine Touch. And I use white because it's black so I can see it. And I tape it down to make sure that it doesn't move. I also use a hardboard underneath. I got this from Hobby Lobby for like $10. That way you can make sure that your pattern is even when you trace it. So I take this down. I traced it with the white fabric pencil, and now I'm getting ready to cut it out. Again, I do not cut out the middle yet because I like to get a good measurement so that it fits my head correctly. So let me cut it out, and then I'll show you what you're going to have. All right, so I have my brim cut out. Now, I don't use an Exacto knife to cut out the brim, which is that, or Exacto razor is what I call it. I don't use it to cut out the brim. I just use scissors. But to cut out the middle, you're going to need one of these. Now, what you want to do is, because we're going to put a patent leather finish on this, you want to close the pores and you want to make sure it's flat. When you do your pattern, you're going to notice that this end is wider than the front end. So this is the front of your hat and this is the back, because you know, cowboy hats, they kind of have that, like, I don't know, the brim kind of goes into a different kind of angle than the back does. So you'll notice when you cut it out, it's almost like an egg shape where it's just kind of more curved on the front than it is the back. That's how you know. To flatten this out, I'm going to use my heat gun. And I'm going to put that on there. I'm going to use my heat gun. What this does is two things. It'll make it flat for me, and it'll also close the pores for when I put the Plasti dip on there. So we're going to just use our heat gun. Not too much. And it's just rolled up from when it was rolled in the shipping. So that's why you kind of do this. But like I said, it kills two birds with one stone because I'll be able to flatten it out and close the pores on it. And you're going to want to do both sides. Now, I do the side that's rolled up first because that'll knock most of the roll out of it. And then I flip it because, again, you want to close the pores because this EVA foam has pores in it. So if you try to put the Plasti dip over it without closing the pores, it's like makeup. It doesn't go on as smooth. So we're just closing the pores on the foam. Again, now I'll do this side and it'll be completely flat for me to work with and shape. All right, so I've cut out the pattern for the middle of my head. And the way I did this to make it easy is I just took a cowboy hat that I like to fit and I traced out the circle and pretty much made the pattern for the middle of my hat. Now, the thing about a cowboy hat is the front brim is actually shorter than the back to the back of the brim from your head. So the edge of the back of your head to the back of the brim will actually be longer than the front of the edge of your head to the front of the brim. So if you want the exact measurements of mine, I'll give it to you. However, this will be different depending on the size of your head. Now, I have a smaller head, so mine's going to be a little longer than someone who would have a bigger opening to their hat. So for mine, from the edge of the back of my head to the back of the brim is about 6 5/8. And then from the front to the front of the brim is going to measure about 6 inches. So that's 6 inches to the front, 6 5/8 to the back. And then from the side, each side is going to be the same. So the sides of these rims are about 5 7/8. So 5 7/8 from the side of the brim. So once you have your pattern for the middle of your head, you can go ahead and trace it out. And then you're going to use your Exacto knife to cut that one out because it's going to be hard to get your scissors in there and to make a perfect circle. So you want to use an Exacto razor blade. I just trace the pattern and then trace that out. We'll go ahead and do that. That way we can get on to actually shaping the brim. So give me a second. Okay, now that we have our hat brim cut, we can begin to shape it. Again, you're going to need your heat gun. And when you shape a cowboy hat, again, it just kind of looks like a pirate hat. You don't necessarily need to fold it up this way, but it really just depends on the kind of brim that you want. The good thing about EVA foam is it's very flexible if you fold it the first time and you don't like the shape, you can flatten it and fold it again. So you don't have to worry about that. So I'm just going to show you how I shape my hat. Again, you're going to use your heat gun. I'm going to do one side at a time. Right. It doesn't have to be ultra hot. And to get it even, I just kind of like to look at it like this. I'm going to hold it for a little while and allow it to cool. I want a little bit of a roll, so I go like this. Hold it for a little while, hold it. Just kind of eye it to see if it's even. Again, it's a cowboy hat. You can shape it easily. It's really doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to play with it once you get it on your head. I think the most important part is you just want to make sure when you cut the middle of the brim opening or where you're going to put your head at, it's better to make it smaller than bigger, because if you make it too big, you're going to have to start over. I've done that a couple of times. And you're going to notice this is going to start to stay the same. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play with it on my head to see exactly how I want to fold it. I don't fold the back yet until I see how it looks on my head. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to keep putting it on my head to see where it falls. But as you can see, it's already turned up with that little bit of heat. And as it cools, it'll stay. But what we're going to do is when we do the Plasti dip on here, it's going to give it even more structure. So let me shape this to the point where I like it, and then I'm going to show you the next steps. Okay, so I started on my second hat, and I just want to kind of show you the easiest way to make sure that you get a good, nice curve in your cowboy hat. You're going to start with painting the outside. So this is going to be my Desert Eagle hat. So you're going to do the outside with the Plasti dip. This one's going to be patent, so you're going to use the enamel, the automobile enamel. Always start with outside, so you can tape the inside to hold the curl in the, now remember we put heat on it, so it's on there, but once you put the paint on there, it may start to fall. So I just tape it here on the inside. And then, because I'm going to start by painting the outside before I even deal with the inside of the hat, right? So again, you're going to take your Amazon hat display stand. You're going to tape the inside. You want to use a good strong tape, so it's a duct tape. However, it's going to leave some marks when you take this off, so you want to not do too much. You're going to take your Amazon hat stand here, and you're going to tape that inside of here so that you have a stand that you can like place it down on and maneuver while you're painting. I'm going to show you that in just a second. All right, so this is what it's going to look like when you have your little contraption. It's taped on the inside. So remember, this is the outside of your hat. You're going to coat this with the Plasti dip and the paint. That is going to lock that curve going upwards. And then you do the inside because it's going to actually help the curl to fall a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a couple coats of paint on this, but see how I can maneuver it. So when I'm painting, I'll just give you an example. So say this is the paint. When I'm painting, I'm just going to take my Plasti dip. I'm going to spray the top, spray the sides, lay it down. Let it dry. The coats are going to be drying while this is curved, so that's going to help kind of, because Plasti dip is just a rubber coating. So it's going to help lock in the shape of your hat. So again, you're going to have the stand, you're going to spray, throw it down, let it dry. All right, so here's what it's going to look like once it has, so on this piece I have one coat of satin that I do first, black satin. Then I did 2 coats of Plasti dip. I did the 2 coats of Plasti dip on the outside with the hat stand in there. And then I took off the hat stand and I just sprayed inside like this. Now, here is the key. When you spray the inside, because you don't have the hat stand, it's going to try to, the weight of the Plasti dip is going to try to open your hat. You don't want it to open it because you want to keep that curve. It looks too curved right now, but that part is going to flatten out once you put the top piece in there. I'll show you. So for this one, it was curved just like that. But once I put the top piece in there, you see how that kind of flared out perfectly? And that's why to hold the shape, I always try to hold the curve. So I spray in the Plasti dip and then I just hold it. Plasti dip dries really, really quickly. So you're not going to spray the outside, so you'll be able to touch the outside. While that Plasti dip is drying, you just want to hold it like this. Once it's dried a little bit, I'd say after 3 or 4 minutes, you can then just place it down to dry like that on the inside all the way. So again, you're going to take off your hat stand, you're going to spray, and hold it. You're just going to hold it for a few minutes, let it dry a little bit, and then you're going to just lay it down. All right, so this is what you're going to have. As you can see, it's nice and glossy now to give it that patent look. I've only did the outside of the brim. Remember, we do that first with each coat, and then we'll go in and do the inside. I'm going to let this dry for a few hours because I really want it to lock in. Again, it's all about locking in the curve of the brim. It will flatten out once you put the top hat in, but you want this to be good and solid. So I'll show you with the other one. So like with this one, it's good and solid. It's very solid and the shape will stay. So I'm going to let that lock in. And then what we'll do is we will remove the tape on the inside here and we'll be able to do the same thing. So the coats were 3 coats of the automobile black gloss enamel and then 2 coats of the clear automobile gloss enamel, just the gloss. So it's 3 coats of color in black gloss and then 2 coats of just the gloss. Again, I'll have everything linked. You're going to take out this tape and then you will do the inside. Now, the thing about this tape is, some of you might have the tape, depending on the temperature or where you're doing this, the tape might let go and your brim will be drying and you'll come back and it'll be on the ground. So what you want to do is you just want to keep a watch constantly to make sure this tape is holding your brim closed. If it looks like it's going to pop open, just put another piece of tape over there. Again, once we pull up the tape, it may leave some marks, but you won't see it because you're going to put it on these coats of enamel. So it'll be all right. So next, I'm just going to take off this tape and do the inside. Again, I just let this dry for a few hours because I really wanted to get crispy and lock in the shape of the brim. All right, guys, so this is what you're going to have. You're going to have your brim burrito here. Again, I did 2 coats of Plasti dip. Then I did 3 coats of black automobile gloss enamel. And I did 2 coats of just the clear gloss automobile enamel. I'm going to show you how I do the top of the hat. I do not make it with the foam because you have to piece it so many pieces together to get it even. And honestly, I like crafts, but I'm not that crafty. So I went to Party City, and these hats, because you know Party City is closing right now, were literally about $2, $3 a piece. So I just bought a bunch of these. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this hat, and the reason I got this kind, I'm going to show you. It's I don't know how to explain it, but it's not leather, it's not pleather, it's not faux leather. It's like a cheap foam, but it's a nice structured cowboy hat top part. So what I do is I bought it in just whatever colors I could find because we're going to paint over this, and I'm going to cut this out. Again, you don't want to do it right on this line because you want to leave a little room. So I just go around and I cut around this piece because I'm going to attach it to my hat. Now, the thing about this is it does, whatever this material is, it does not take to paint very well. You're going to need to put quite a few layers on there to get it good and primed for paint, but it's better than having a lopsided top hat here. But when you put this top part on your hat, don't forget when you do the contact glue to use your little spatula thing because you don't want to just pour this over there like that. You want to be able to spread it along the edges really good. So you want to make sure that you have your spatula. And the same thing with the outside. The most important part is you're going to want to make sure you kind of line it up and get a feel to where you're going to put the contact glue. Because I'm not putting it right on the edge. It's coming out about 1/8 of an inch here is where I'm going to put it around the brim here. And again, because you don't need much contact glue, don't make this messy. It can stay clean. That way you don't have a bunch of stuff on the inside of your hat. I wouldn't mark it because then you don't want to have those marks on your hat. But you can mark it if you just don't feel secure about yourself with like a white pen or something on there. But again, I'm going to put contact glue on here, contact glue here. I'm going to put this on my head. Then I'm going to contact this down just to make sure this is straight. Because if you even get it a little bit like this, your whole hat is messed up. Like it's going to fit really crazy. So again, you just want to do this, put it on there. You can even press into there a little bit and get you a little bit of a line to where it's going to go. But again, just use your spatula to keep it clean with the contact glue. You don't want to overdo it. You don't need a lot of contact glue. All right, so I'm going to show you guys with my contact glue on there. As you can see, I have it around where it's going to go, and I have it on the edge of this. And again, I'm going to make sure I know what my front and my back is. The front is always going to be the smaller, like the less wider part, the more narrow part, and the wider one is in the back. And I'm going to connect those together. Again, you let your contact glue dry for about 2 minutes so that it gets good and tacky before you cement them together. Again, put this on your head. I have messed up by not doing that. So put this on your head to make sure that it's straight and then connect these together. You won't get this on your hair, but if you're afraid to, just put a scarf or something on to protect your hair. But this shouldn't get in there because it's not all the way on the edge. So yeah, so again, you're gonna put your contact glue here, let that sit for about 2 minutes, and then put this on your head and put this down to make sure that they're straight. Again, these curves will flatten out once you put this on there because that's gonna make this inside flatter, which is where you get that cowgirl hat, brim curl like that. So, all right, so I'm gonna let this dry and I'm gonna put them together and then I will come back and show you how to finish up the inside. Again, you can play with your own designs. I just did some vinyl stickers. Remember, if you do vinyl stickers, when you put them on, add a little heat, but not too much heat because you will warp the hat. So if you're gonna do the vinyl stickers, you can put just a little bit of heat to make sure that they stick on, but just get a really good high quality vinyl sticker and you'll be able to put designs and stuff on your hat. All right, so this is the hat with the top part on there. It is nice and secure with the cement contact glue. Now for the inside, what I go and do, because you'll notice, because I don't do a clean circle, you're going to have like these little areas that seem like they're not stuck together, right? So you're going to go in with a hot glue gun and just make sure that you seal it all the way around. So again, I just take my hot glue gun and go in here, and you want to do one little section at a time just to make sure the glue can dry and that it's sealed. So I'm going to seal that down like that. And I'm going to do this all the way around And that just keeps there from being any like openings in the top part of the hat. Again, this is foam. You really don't need to put a lining on the inside to make sure that it doesn't hurt because like, again, I said it's foam. However, if you do want something a little more comfortable on the inside of the hat, I'll show you how to do that in a second. But again, you're just going to do this all the way around with your hot glue gun. Once that hot glue and that contact cement really lock it down, this will be on there and you don't have to worry about having gaps in there. So again, you just want to do a little section at a time though, because you don't want the glue to dry while you're doing this. So, just take your time and go around the edges. Hold it down, make sure it seals, and let the glue get good and dry before you move on to the next section. So I'm going to do this, and then I'll come back and show you what to do if you want to put a little bit of a lining on the inside. All right, so for the inside of the hat, you can buy these foam protectors. My head is small, so the interior of the top hat part that I use is bigger than the opening for my hat. So if you have a smaller hole, what you can do is you can buy these, which are just, they help you fit your hat. So they're like little hat bands for the inside of the hat. And I use black on my black hats, white on my white hat. And you can just take these, they have adhesive on there, and you can just stick them on the inside of the hat if you want to, or if you want to make it more comfortable, if the hat opening is too wide, you can just stick them right on the inside like this. I stick mine here. It just makes it a little more comfortable when I put the hat on. So I'll go around this brim and add those, and it just adds a little bit of cushion inside the hat when I put it on. So yeah, so this will be your finished product. Again, you see how the burrito flares out once you add this. If you find that you put your brim to your top hat and it's too curved, you can again use a little bit of heat, not too much because you don't want to heat up the paint or the Plasti dip, but it'll fall out, and you can play with the shape. Again, with the white hat, I'll show you. So with my white hat here, what I did was I put a little heat on it, I shaped the brim a little bit better, and then I added this curve in the front, which makes a really cool shape. And again, these hats are really oversized, like the ones we've seen during the Super Bowl. Just really big, really fun. Again, I add vinyl stickers to do a design. And yeah, that's how you do it. Again, these hats are just really fun. They're not going to be perfect. Again, you will have some texture. Plasti dip doesn't go on to these top hats exactly with no flaws. So there'll be flaws, but again, it's just a really fun, cheap way to make you one of the big oversized hats and to customize them to whatever you have. So have fun with it. I'll try to segment this video in different parts. I don't know how to use YouTube yet, so I'll try to segment them and label them to what I'm doing in each segment. But again, you're just going to have these two pieces, and you're going to use contact cement on here, contact cement on here. You're going to put it together. Again, this will fan out like this, and you'll have your nice cowboy hat shape. You can add your vinyl stickers and do all kinds of fun things. So enjoy. All right, so this is what our two brims look like that they've been coated, and I'm going to show you. This one is shiny, like a patent leather. Again, this is Plasti dip with gloss enamel automotive paint, spray paint on top of it. And it's nice and molded. That paint has cured on there, and so that brim curve is nice and secure. Now, why is it so tight? Because you have to remember that when you flatten this hat to put the actual top piece on there, it's going to fan out like that. So you want to have that cowgirl hat lift. And that's why it looks tight without the top piece on there. Here's your white one, and this is just Plasti dip. Again, you see it has that leather look to it. It even has these kind of creases like leather because, again, once this fans out, you'll see that it's going to crease a little bit so that you have that cowgirl hat lift. So this is what your two pieces are going to look like once you've got them coated with the Plasti dip and whatever. Again, this one has a gloss enamel paint on it, spray paint on it, and this one doesn't. This is just white Plasti dip.